Ladies and gentlemen, the following is another fantastic episode of 15 Minutes of Fandom. This is where we actually put the spotlight on our fellow wrestling fans. So, with that being said, in the first corner, we have the Monarch of Mardi Gras, the Baroness of Bourbon Street. When she's not co-hosting Ringside Society, she's on crazy misadventures such as looking for the fabled Cobra Kai dojo, dressing up as one of the Road Warriors and picking fights with random people, and taking part in secret underground Kumite tournaments. Louisiana's own Kathy Knight. In the second quarter, we have the greatest thing on God's green earth. No, we're not talking about money, Mary Jane, or Popeye Spinach. He is the tranquil dart of Ringside Society and Delaware's greatest American hero. It takes two to make a thing go right. He's Rob Bass, and you are not. And the third corner, we have that ocean crossing, straight up bossing, flight catching, shot glass snatching, always on the go, catch him if you can, said his name in Guyana, now they love him in Japan. No cap, the worldwide star boy, Remy Blue. And our special guest tonight, it's actually 5 o'clock over here, so whichever time zone you're in, is a man who is 1/3 of one of Louisiana's best podcasts for professional wrestling and even across the board. We actually had his tag team partner, his co-host, Derek Dylan Abear, last week. And we figured, hey, you know something? We might as well just take down the whole crew one by one, see what their stories are. Everybody, welcome to the show, Marcus Hay, aka Marquise Bebe of the World Elite Podcast.
Woo!
Marquise, how you doing today, man? Thank you for actually, giving us the this opportunity to interview you and so on. How's everything in your neck of the woods?
Thank you guys for having me. It's all been good. It's just it's not feeling fall out here. I feel like we're still in summer because we're still in 80-degree temperature. But good news is we're getting a cold front Thursday, and we're going to get the weather you two guys are having pretty soon. So I'll explain on Kathy's behalf. It's too hot down here for October.
Awesome. Yeah, it's about that time of the year now when the cold weather is going to start coming in. People are going to start, bundling up and, they're going to start sipping their pumpkin spice lattes or warm beverage of choice and whatnot. Speaking of which, for those of y'all that don't know, we actually have Ringside Society hoodies. Those are all that are listening and watching. We have Ringside Society hoodies available in all colors at our Teespring store. So whenever you get cold, just go ahead and hop on by, cop yourself a hoodie and, just stay warm for the next couple of months. But yeah, man, I gotta say, World Elite Podcast, man, y'all are definitely doing the damn thing, man. And I wish y'all nothing but success. Y'all are definitely doing Louisiana proud. I know Kathy over there is smiling right now. She's happy, because anything Louisiana, she's big on it. She gets excited and whatnot too. So yeah, definitely wish y'all nothing but the best. But I just gotta ask you, man, before I go any further, man, what was the event or the pay-per-view that made you become a fan of professional wrestling?
I started watching it in 1997. I was watching WCW at the time, but I come from a whole royalty of diehard wrestling fans. So my dad, my grandparents, and my great aunt and uncles all watched it throughout the 60s and the 70s. Back then they had Mid-South. They went to all the shows down there. And then if WWF ever came close by, they'd go to them shows, or mostly it was WCW. My whole family were big fans of JYD. They were all fans of the Junkyard Dog and Hacksaw and the Von Erichs. They were all big in Mid-South. I got into it watching WCW. I started watching Goldberg, thought it was awesome. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then I had friends that watched WWF at the time. This was the Attitude Era. They were like, you think Goldberg's cool? Wait till you see Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I thought he was kind of like a ripoff of Goldberg. He's bald. He's got a Fu Manchu. He wears black trunks, black knee pads, black boots, just like him, except he's got a potty mouth and he's drinking beer. He's beating the boss's ass. He does all that. Raising hell, or Goldberg just kind of like just shows up, kicks ass, takes names, and leaves. Or Austin just, the rest. But man, I've been watching it since '97. I've hopped on from WCW to WWE. I was big on I watched TNA for a bit while. I watched it from about 04 to 05 to about 2013. And that was strictly WWE at the time. But now I'm since AEW started, I've been huge with AEW, and I've watched it since day one. I love it. I still watch WWE occasionally though.
Awesome. That's cool, man. Yeah, AEW has definitely been it's definitely been a breath of fresh air. As opposed to with and they came at a good time when wrestling was booming, because before they came about, you had all these little promotions all over. You had them in each region. You had championship wrestling in Hollywood. You had championship wrestling in Arizona, Anarchy Wrestling down in Georgia. Those were all good, but they weren't on the nationwide level as AEW or WWE was, or WWE is. So AEW was that breath of fresh air, that alternative that people can look at instead of WWE. And so I gotta ask you, man. You say you watch WWE occasionally, right? I believe Kathy, Rob. If y'all got better memories than me, but I believe I asked your co-host, Derek Aber,
Dylan,
what he thinks there will be. Dylan, sorry, Dylan. I'm sorry about that. I just got done dealing with somebody named Derek, that said he wanted to be on our show, but I don't know. He's kind of, yeah. He's actually from Baton Rouge, actually. So I'm sorry about that.
go
But
time.
yeah. But I asked Dylan, what did he think? I think I did. I can't remember. But I asked him what he thought WWE needed to do better in order to, because people have been. It's no secret that people have been dissatisfied with the product. So I'm asking you, a fellow wrestling fan and a podcaster. No judgment here on your opinion whatsoever. We don't judge people. What do you think WWE needs to do in order to better themselves and try to get fans get the fans that they lost interested again in their product?
Number one thing I say is they need to hire new writers, come up with better storylines, because the ones they have now ain't worth a shit. And we kind of been seeing the same stuff over and over. A lot of rivalries, they say, oh, this is the end, but 2 weeks later, you see it on Monday Night Raw. But I think even before the pandemic, that was their main problem. But with the pandemic happening, that kind of just put them at the bottom of the totem pole. And I was in shock when they got the fans back. They were actually attending shows, but it's just they're going back to bad ideas and storylines and seeing the same stuff, giving the title to the same person instead of building new stars. That's another thing, is they're bringing all these talents from NXT and they're just washing them or putting the golden shovel on them. They're not what they are anymore. Like, take Karrion Kross, for example. He was a dominant force in NXT, and you bring him to the main roster, you change his gimmick sort of, you don't bring Scarlett, and you change everything. He just looks like a complete jobber when he was just some dominant force in NXT. That's like a big prime example there. But 9 times out of 10, I would say it's the writing staff. They just need better storylines. And to be honest, this draft, I think, came at a bad time. I think they should have did this draft in the summer, because it's going to make Survivor Series look like a complete dumpster fire, because you have no stories to build with this Raw versus SmackDown thing. So I thought having the draft this late before Survivor Series was a big mistake. And with Bruce and Vince now running NXT, now NXT is going to be a complete different scenario than what it used to be. Like, I'm not a big fan of this NXT 2.0. So my advice, I just say, is get a better writing staff, and Vince McMahon needs to retire. Let Triple H and Stephanie run the show, because Triple H, we all know he did a damn good job running NXT until Vince and Bruce took it over, and now it looks like a complete giant independent wrestling show on steroids with all the complete entertainment, because that's what it basically is. Like, I don't even recognize the Capitol Wrestling Center anymore with all the lighting and now changing the ring ropes and the mat and the whole crowd scenario, getting rid of the screens and all that, their little version of the Thunderdome, whatever you want to call it, the whole 9 yards. It's just a complete change, and I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, the NXT, to me, in my opinion, NXT is not bad. If anything, it's giving me the vibe of how NXT was back in 2012 when they ditched the guess you want, for lack of a better lack of a better term, game show format, because you know they had them doing all those obstacle runs and all that stuff. The vibe that NXT 2.0 is giving me is that of NXT of 2012 when it started becoming a weekly episodic show and so on. And then there's SmackDown is good. I don't mind SmackDown. SmackDown, I enjoy watching SmackDown. To me, the main problem is Raw. And once they could fix that, then they'll be good. Vince McMahon retiring, I don't think that'll happen. And this is the thing with Vince McMahon. He's had control for far too long, and he doesn't seem to be the type that is going to give it over willingly. This is a man that took a company, built it from, I guess you could say, from the ground up. So plus when you've had all those years of you being in control, from when did he purchase the company? 1983 up until now. What was it, 2021? So that's 38 years. 38 years. That's my whole lifespan. I'm 38 years old. So you've had control for that long. It's gonna kind of be. I think it's gonna be kind of hard for him to actually say, "Well, Paul or Triple H." I shouldn't call the man by his shoot name, but Triple H. You take over the reins. You know, I honestly don't see, if it happened, it would be nice, but I don't see that happening with him. But the only thing is Raw. Raw needs to, and they need to stop getting all these Hollywood writers. Get writers let wrestling fans write it. Like actual wrestling fans.
Yeah, Raw has just been. I haven't really enjoyed Raw probably since 2013 or 14 was the last time I actually really sat down and enjoyed Raw. Now SmackDown, yes, SmackDown is 10 times better, especially with Roman Reigns as Tribal Chief character. I love it. I love Roman Reigns as a heel. He's making SmackDown what it is today. Now, they have had a couple bumps in this last month or 2 months, but it's still been kicking ass on the ratings, way better than Raw. Indeed.
So I got to ask you a question now. So Louisiana, right? Are you familiar with any of the independents down there, like Elevate Pro, Wildcat? And what's the other one, Kathy? Is it Pro Wrestling 252?
225.
225.
That's the area code for Baton Rouge. And yeah, they just been around a couple years. We actually promoted one of their shows back in August. They came to my backyard in Lafayette for Conflict in Acadiana, and we brought in one of their champions. We were supposed to bring the founder on our show, but he couldn't make it, so he brought in one of his other top stars that was main eventing the night. So I had them two on. It's in our archives. You can check it out. It happened around the week after SummerSlam. We posted that episode, and it's also on our Facebook page because we live streamed it right here on StreamYard. So you can watch. You can see Chase Matthews and Rhett the Threat interview with me virtually, like I'm doing with you three guys. Or you can go on to any place you can get your podcasts and listen to the audio version. But yeah, and Pro Wrestling 225's got a show coming up this Saturday. Somewhere I think around Baton Rouge. I think they told me they got some Halloween show coming up, but we haven't promoted it or nothing. But yeah, I've been to one. There was one company, they don't exist anymore. They used to have a promotion called AAW, All American Wrestling of Louisiana. This was back in 2009, 2010-ish. They came in our area a few times, and I went to some of their independent shows. Some of the guys in Pro Wrestling 225 wrestled for that promotion 10, 12 years ago. And I've got to meet some former WWE talent that wrestled on that promotion those 3 nights. I've met Heidenreich, I've met the Highlanders, and I've met Kevin Nash. But he just was there as a guest. He didn't wrestle. He was just there for like autograph signing. So it was cool meeting those guys.
He probably hurt himself. I'm sorry, but Nash hasn't been the same since TNA. I don't know what happened to that man, but he just hasn't been the same. But are you familiar with Luke Hawx?
Yeah, I've heard of that name before, but I've never really seen him compete.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, as a native of Louisiana, you know, how does it feel to when you see people like, because Luke Hawx is now he's an actor. Yes, he's had a couple of parts. He's been on Heels a few times, and I was going to ask you, how does it make you feel that you to be a native of Louisiana, to see him get that shine? And then you have a woman who I have a lot of respect for, Tyron Terrell, actually doing the thing and winning titles in OVW and Impact, and now she's on NWA. But how does that like? What's your mindset as a fan from Louisiana with that happening?
I think we don't really get that a lot down here because a lot of big stars from today are mainly from like on the other parts of the country, like Chicago and all over the East Coast, even in Texas. But there are quite a bit of wrestling icons and legends from our state. I'm proud to say, that's our Louisiana brother or sister. Like probably as of now, maybe the biggest wrestler to come out of Louisiana that's a legend is Jazz. And I know she don't get a lot of credibility, but now, back then she didn't. But after maybe her run in WWE, people started realizing who she was. She got bigger wrestling for them when she started in ECW, but now she's like a true pioneer in the women's division. And now everybody knows who she is. And she even put her husband, Rodney Mack, on the map too, who's actually grew up not far from where I live too. And a lot of people we don't get a lot of credibility for this one, but Booker T was actually born in Louisiana before he moved to Houston. The same thing with the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd. That's probably the biggest male wrestler to come out of Louisiana is the Big Cat. Even though he was born in Texas, but he moved and lived in Louisiana since he was like 2 years old. And he actually played college football at one of our 2 HBCUs in Louisiana. He played for Grambling. So those 3 probably about the biggest names of all time. Now, we do have a few from Louisiana that are currently wrestling. For example, Ricky Starks in AEW. He's from New Orleans. He's the FTW champion right now, and he's a part of Team Taz. He's probably the biggest star in Louisiana right now that's on the biggest main stage. But outside of wrestling, if you're talking about UFC, we got Daniel Cormier, who's about to be a future Hall of Famer, and we got Derek Lewis. And the Diamond Dustin Poirier, the one that knocked out Conor McGregor and broke his leg too. So I have a lot to be proud of being from the boot, not just wrestling, MMA, boxing, even in all other sports too. So yeah, it's a blessing in disguise. Well, we got a lot of great things about Louisiana, but New Orleans gets all the credit though. They could be from Shreveport or Lake Charles, but they'll say, "Oh, they're from New Orleans."
New Orleans is definitely on my list. I'm the type of traveler, when I travel, I stay where the tourists are because I know better. Like I'm not gonna go like somewhere. Like if I see somebody from Philadelphia and ask them where's the best cheesesteak at, they're like, oh, it's not there, it's somewhere. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna stay where the tourists are. Then I'm good. You can go there, but yeah,
you just gotta be careful in New Orleans. You gotta be in the safe spots. Like if you're gonna go in the French Quarter, you want to stay away from the alleyways because that's where they'll jump you and they'll rob you or they'll beat you or slaughter you to death. So that's where I heard all the stories from.
Yeah, I'll just stay on Bourbon Street. There's only one place I do want to go though, and that's a place called the Blue Oak Barbecue Restaurant. That's what I want to check out. And wherever they have the best po' boys, I'm still waiting for Kathy to give me the best place, but she's keeping it secret. I don't know. I think she wants to tell me that she makes the best ones, but I'm not trying to go where she's at because I don't know the place too well. And yeah, but
I will say, if you ever go to New Orleans, if you're going down Bourbon Street, put your wallet in your front pocket because they can pickpocket you in your back pocket and you won't even realize it.
Oh, nice.
And if you're a breakfast lover or anything like that, you want to eat some beignets in New Orleans. Go to Beignets, and if you want some good coffee, go to PJ's.
I'm gonna try. I've been hearing about beignets. Kathy loves them. Kathy loves them like like anything. So, but I'm curious about it now. I definitely want to go down there and check it out. Louisiana is definitely one of the places that I know. I definitely want to try some of that jambalaya over there. The closest I've ever had to, I guess you can call it authentic jambalaya, was a Cajun restaurant in Atlanta, but it's in Atlanta, so it doesn't really count. But the jambalaya was really good. But hopefully,
Now, now
whenever
if
I
you
get over to Louisiana, I can
now
make that
you have to
happen.
go. They got beignets all over, but you have to go to Cafe Du Monde. That's the only place to eat a beignet. That's the best ones you're going to get. But if you want to dine in, you better get there super early because I was riding around at 8 o'clock in the morning and they had a line that was damn near half a mile long and people trying a 3 hour reservation. So it Kathy
Wow.
would probably agree with me. I mean, if she lives in New Orleans, she knows Cafe Du Monde's the place to go if you want beignets.
Yep,
Cafe
that's the place to be.
Cafe Du Monde. Okay, I'll definitely remember that. When I get to New Orleans, definitely remember that.
I don't remember what street it was on, but it's like right off the river.
I think it's like Decatur or somewhere near there.
It's like where the mall is and all that, right off the river. Like it's like about a half a mile walk, right next to where like all the action was, like where they got the mall at. And then if you go across the tracks, that's where like the convention center and all that is, where they did access for WrestleMania and everything.
Yeah. Oh, I got it. Oh, so that was the next question I was going to ask you. WrestleMania 30, New Orleans, Louisiana. Did you go?
I went to both of them in New Orleans, but my first WrestleMania, believe it or not, don't ask why I didn't go. I could have went, but since I live 2 hours from Houston, Texas, I almost went to WrestleMania 17 when I was 11 years old, but I didn't go. I couldn't go. So that was the biggest regret of my life. But my first WrestleMania was WrestleMania 25, where I got to see the greatest match of all time, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, where Undertaker went 17-0 and almost ended his streak. But yes, I went to both WrestleManias in the Dome. If you're talking about my reaction for the streak, yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I did not expect that. Like, I felt like Shawn Michaels. I lost my smile. Like, I was completely down until the main event when Daniel Bryan won it, and then I was completely happy all over again because I mainly went to that show to see Daniel Bryan conquer the Authority and walk out as the world champion at the end of the night, and he did just that. But I will say, to be honest, there was a little bit of in between for both. Like, if you're talking about the show wise, I enjoyed WrestleMania 30's show more than 34's because the whole Daniel Bryan story. The only thing bad about 34, it was so too damn long. I was in the Dome for 7 hours. The kickoff was a 2 hour show. The show itself was around 5 hours. There were too many matches, which there were some I was glad that happened, but the main event was complete shit. I damn near walked out halfway through the main event, but no, I got distracted with the crowd playing with the beach ball in the crowd, so I was watching that more than the main event. But as soon as Brock beat Roman, I got up and walked out and got in my truck and drove back home in the fog and the rain. But
Yeah, that to me that streak ending by Brock Lesnar's hands, that looked like desperation for me. In hindsight, looking back at it, it looked like desperation because at the time CM Punk had just they fired him, they ended
yeah,
on bad terms, and Vince. It just seemed like Vince was like, "Well, I don't want you to be recognized as the longest reigning champ in this era, so I'm just gonna have the next person do it." Which and he could have waited. Because I like the fact that Roman's the longest reigning champion. I like what Roman Reigns is doing right now. But to me, it just shouldn't have been Brock. Brock was a part-timer, and don't get me wrong, he is a phenomenal wrestler. The man's a collegiate wrestler. And I always say, if you're a collegiate wrestler going into professional wrestling, the sky is the limit. There is no stopping you. And Just look at people like Jack Swag or Jake Hager now, Kurt Angle, and who else? Who else has a Shelton? Well, Shelton Benjamin to a certain degree, although I think he should have been champion too. They've
Yeah,
all been successful.
but I will say
But
I'm so happy they brought the Hurt Business back. I was a big fan of the Hurt Business, and I'm so glad they're back. We'll say
yeah,
that.
yeah. To me, it just seemed like Vince was just looking to like get rid. Because then, if you look at what happened, he had Brock. He had Brock end the streak. And me, I gotta watch what I say sometimes. So I was like, well, he might as well just put the title on Brock. Lo and behold, SummerSlam, who becomes champion? Brock Lesnar. But he doesn't defend. He defends it like months at a time, not every month. What, 2, 3, every what, 3 or 4 months? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is ridiculous. And then that same year, he had Nikki Bella beat AJ Lee and become the longest reigning, what was it, Divas champion at the time. So it seemed like he just wanted to erase any history, any record that they had, and it just seemed like out of desperation. That's what it seemed like. But I'm just glad that now you have Roman Reigns, and I think Becky Lynch. Kathy, you're a big Becky Lynch fan. I think Becky Lynch actually broke that record that Nikki Bella had. Thank goodness. I mean, the Bellatons are good, but I wasn't too impressed with how they were in the ring. But then again, that was the Divas era. So that was a different thing. So let's talk about World Elite. I just got one more. That's just my last question. Then I know Kathy has some questions for you, and then Rob.
Okay.
But World Elite. Dylan told us how y'all came together. Starting off, what was your mindset? Were you nervous, or were you like, I got this, something's going to be positive, we're going to be the most groundbreaking professional wrestling podcast in Louisiana? Or was it a mixture of both?
I guess you could say it's a mixture of both, because first off, because like I have a bad habit of talking to myself, especially when I'm alone. And I've used that for years as practice, because first off, I'm not afraid to publicly speak to anybody, because I've had a public speaking background before, and I've done radio work in the past. So I've been on the radio before, and I'm not afraid to speak my mind live on set where people can hear, and it's going to be recorded. But I felt like podcasting was maybe different than working on the radio, but I just took what I've done in the radio business. I've just been myself, but there have times I have made some mistakes, or I might have said an error or two. Like I might have said somebody's name wrong, and I might pause and be like, oh shit, like I said it wrong. Like I just keep going. But like if you mentioned this last week, I watched the episode last week. We both started out as blog writers, because I blog writed for a good while, and we were blog writing together. And then he did his podcast with his other co-hosts on his Saints podcast. And then that kind of made me wonder, I'm like, God, that would be 10 times easier than blog writing, because when I post my blogs, it's gotta be legit. Like I gotta throw in the videos, I gotta throw in tweets, gotta throw in all the above, and it could take a good while for editing all that. Like I've done some great posts that took about 2 hours, 3 hours to edit before I posted it online. And I told him that, I'm like, it looks like it's fun, and he told me it's a great idea, and then I was like, that'd be cool if we did a wrestling podcast, and he was all in for it. And then I'm like, I don't even think they have one in Louisiana. As of now, we currently don't. We're the only real one. Like all three hosts are from Louisiana, but there has been some in the past. I've recently found out from a guest we brought in about 2 months ago, but we've kind of gotten some recognition. But yeah, it's great. It's a lot easier, and it's a lot more fun. And then I can speak to someone instead of just typing on a keyboard, being a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I gotta say, we're not getting any checks cut for us, but StreamYard. So when we first started off, we were on Blog Talk, and we still are, but we use it sparingly, and we haven't cut off complete ties yet. We will very soon, though. But we first started with StreamYard. We were doing audio only, and StreamYard was great, but just that I'm the type of person like I want us to go global, like to go to talk. Like if somebody said they were in, let's say Dubai or Japan or anywhere else in the world, we could easily reach out to them. All they, we should be able to do it with ease. But with Blog Talk, we were limited because they were people from Hawaii. We couldn't even call people in Hawaii or Puerto Rico. And if not Puerto Rico, okay, fine, because Puerto Rico is a territory. But Hawaii, which is an official state of America, we couldn't even call there. And I was like, this is so you're trying to tell me that we can only call the 48 continental states. And then when I looked into it, we had some fellow wrestling fans that were international and some wrestlers that were international too. And we couldn't do that unless it was doable, but they would have to have Skype and pay for it or sign up for a free trial. And I'm like, nobody should have to, I don't want nobody to sign up for anything to be on our show. Nothing. So then a friend of, well, not a friend, but a fellow podcaster told us about StreamYard. So we're like, okay, we're going to give this a shot. And we did a few test runs because I wanted to make sure that we didn't look like one big cluster when we started. And Kathy and Rob will tell you, we had to work out through our problems. We had to deal with echoes. We had to deal with people freezing and us not being able to see them move and all that stuff. But we conquered through that. And this has been a great tool because we've talked to people over in the Philippines. We actually got to talk to Paige's mom over in England. And StreamYard has definitely been a blessing, and we definitely enjoy them. And it's all a matter of having a connection and having a phone or a laptop, and you're good to go. So we've come pretty far. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn over to Kathy because I know Kathy has some questions for you. So Kathy, go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Remy. Hey, Marcus, it's Marcus, right? Or is it Marquise?
Yeah, it's Marcus. Marquise was something I was called when I was in high school, and someone like brought that name back from the dead. Because like I've had many different nicknames doing this. Like I've called myself mainly Mr. Marcus Hay. I adopted the Mister in memory of Brody Lee for a little while. Like I've had other nicknames, or even just for one time for the fun of it. But someone brought an old nickname I hadn't been called since I was in high school back from the dead, and I just used that as my stage name, just Marquise, and then I just threw it in as a joke. When Adam Cole came back to AEW, I was like, Marquise, baby.
That's pretty cool. So, being a fellow Louisianian, I asked Dylan this too, but what's your favorite Louisiana food?
Number one for sure, crawfish. Number two is behind that is gumbo.
Yeah, he said gumbo. He wasn't a big fan of crawfish, which I told him that too. Like I wasn't a big fan growing up, but as I got older, you try more foods and stuff like that. I always felt like I told him crawfish took too long to peel just for that little bitty piece of meat. But I started liking it. I started growing into it. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, gumbo's always to me always been number one.
Crawfish it's got to be south of I-10 to get it from somebody. Like we make it best south of I. Everyone north of I-10 don't ever season it. And we always in a civil war with the state because it's true. I mean, everybody north of I-10 don't ever spice their foods up and don't put no flavor in it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Do not get north of I-10 crawfish. It's always south of I-10 because we know how to boil it right and season it and everything. So yeah.
And don't ever get crawfish at a Chinese restaurant.
No. Always have to get local.
Well, Chinese restaurants bake their crawfish. They don't boil it; they bake it.
Yeah, that's true too. I never did try like at a Chinese restaurant. I always stayed away from it. I always bought like local stuff. Hey, Red Queen Rhonda. So, what are your favorite wrestlers?
Currently, all time, like I was The Rock was my guy. Like that's the damn reason why I started watching WWF more. I was The Rock. He's the all time from all promotions. currently now, like if you're talking about WWE now, I love Drew McIntyre a little bit. I've met him on Bourbon Street when I went to WrestleMania 30. I met him and his fiance on Bourbon Street. I like him. Tag teams right now. I love Roman Reigns. I didn't talk and have a conversation with him, but I didn't meet him, but I went to a live event years ago when he was still the big dog, and where he come out through the crowd, and he came out and he walked past me, and I had it on video, and I held my fist out and he fist bumped me. I posted it on my Twitter a couple days ago. I think it was on Friday I posted it. This was back in 2015. I loved him. Tag team, like currently right now, I would say favorite tag team now, if it's not the Usos. I like the Street Profits, but my all-time favorite tag team was the Hardys. Women wrestlers, I love Sasha Banks. That's my number one right now. I love Alexa Bliss. I like Becky Lynch. I'm just not a big fan of this new gimmick, this big time Becky. I think she took that from her husband with the weird clothing, but I love my all-time favorite was probably Trish in the women's side. I was a big Trish fan. I loved Lita as well. AEW, I just got too many. I love Chris Jericho. I love Sammy Guevara. Young Bucks is my favorite tag team in AEW. I love Kenny Omega. I love Jungle Boy. I love Orange Cassidy. The women, I love Britt Baker. I love Ty Conti. I love the Dark Order. Hangman Adam Page. The thing about Hangman, I think every promotion's got that one wrestler that is just an alcoholic. WWE's got Stone Cold. ECW had the Sandman. TNA had James Storm. AEW's got Adam Page. But,
I think you got a theory there. Seeing a pattern now that you said that.
and TNA, I don't watch it as much as I used to, but like if I watch it now, I love the only one I love. He hadn't been doing too good. I like Sami Callihan in Impact. Kurt Angle, I met Kurt Angle too before. He's great, but I always got that question. Did you like Kurt Angle best in WWE or TNA, or what was the best Kurt Angle? And that's really the hardest question I can answer. But I can go on about favorites and who I don't like. Now, I'm not going to leave Stone Cold behind. Of course, everyone loves Stone Cold. He just really wasn't the one that got me into it. He almost did, but when I saw The Rock, that was it. I love Undertaker. You got to respect the dead man. I love The Undertaker. He was the first real heel I saw. You got to respect Triple H, of course. You got to respect all of them. And, of course, I do. But, I can't just put everybody on this list. I can only cramble a few.
Yeah, there's not too many I don't like. But I do have a lot of favorites, too. And, talking about Impact, they had Bound for Glory yesterday. I didn't get to see it, but I did see on Twitter what happened, and it seems like it was a pretty good show. Got some new.
It was very good, but about that ending, it's like if I was being biased, I would say that was the stupidest decision ever, but it was a genius the way it ended. Like the writing staff coming up with that is genius, but if you're just more of a babyface guy, you think it's stupid. But it's kind of 50-50. Like I thought it was a genius ending, but I didn't like it at the same time.
Gotcha. So you said earlier when Remy was interviewing you that you started watching WCW, and I kind of see a pattern too, because I preferred WCW over WWE or WWF at the time when I started watching too. I find that, and you have me for one, and then you for another. So I see a pattern here. If you've been a fan of WCW and you liked it more than WWE, right now with AEW in the picture, people tend to like AEW more than WWE if they were a big WCW fan. Would you agree with that?
I can agree with that, but I will say AEW is kind of like a 2.0 of WCW, which AEW focuses more on professional wrestling more than sports entertainment. But at the time, the only reason I was watching WCW mainly more because my mom didn't like how WWF was rolling back in the Attitude Era. Like, she thought that was too inappropriate for me. So, like, I couldn't watch Stone Cold just drink beer and beat Vince up or see what the women were doing as sex icons on Raw. For, like, Sable, for example. She only would let me watch WCW. Like, she was okay watching me watch the Nitro Girls dance because they just look like a professional dance team. They're not ripping clothes off and all that, or walking around the ring half naked, because my mom didn't want me watching that. My mom was very strict with me back then. But once she saw The Rock, she thought that was the most sexiest man in the world. She's like, okay, if you're watching him, you can watch it. So I kind of just used The Rock, but then I grew into The Rock. My mom thought The Rock was the most handsome thing she ever saw. And she literally wanted me to cut my hair just like him.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that was the thing too. So, growing up, so like I'm an '80s baby. I've watched wrestling for a good
Me too.
34 years now. So, we would watch WCW Saturday night. It was more available than like WWE or WWF at the time, because we had superstars that would air on Saturday, and it was a little bit more. It wasn't so much the Attitude Era. But another reason I couldn't really watch WWF or like Raw or anything like that was we didn't have the USA Network. And that came about like 98, 99, like right at the height of the Attitude Era. So I got to watch that. And but I had like a niece that would she'd tell me like, Sable put paint on her boobs, and she came out, and that's all she came out to. And I'm like, that's not wrestling, because I was more like WCW based. So I was like, they didn't do that in WCW. Like, what is WWE doing? That's not the WWE I know, that kind of thing. But had to realize, it's the Attitude Era. They went more like ECW was there and stuff like that. So, but it was funny. Like, my niece would come on the weekends and she'd tell me stuff that happened in WWF, and it just like turned me off more. But then when I actually got to watch it, and like DX was there and The Rock and Stone Cold, I was like, okay, like this is kind of cool. And then, of course, the WCW and WWE, the Monday Night Wars started, so that made more wrestling more exciting then. So yeah, it was just like I couldn't watch WWE at the time. So to its credit, I was like, okay, when I started watching it, it got better.
Oh yeah, kind of like what you said. Yeah, you kind of resembled like what reason why my mom wouldn't let me watch it until she started liking him. But if you're talking about like some of them factions you talked about, like, of course, when you're a kid watching it, you want to root for the good guys. They're like superheroes to y'all. So, like, when I was watching WCW, I was loving Goldberg, but I was supposed to hate the NWO because they were bad. But yeah, NWO Wolfpack, that was the best faction in WCW, in my opinion. I was big on the black and red. But like DX got me in more trouble than anybody else. I couldn't tell how many times I've gotten in trouble doing the suck it to friends or teachers if I didn't get my way. But
yeah, I never did that, but I do hear a lot, and they said that in their Hall of Fame speech. They're like, we apologize for everybody that's ever got in trouble doing the suck it chops. We're sorry, like doing it in front of your parents or like your teachers. But I never did that, thank God. But yeah, I had heard a lot of people do that and got in trouble.
oh yeah, it got me in quite a bit of trouble. If they'd have had that speech back then, I could have used that as my apology.
Yeah. So I was going through your social media stuff. You're a statistician, or however, it's hard to say, but for the Lake Arthur Tigers, how hard is that? And did you take any classes? Because when I took a statistics class in college, and it was like that stuff was just way over my head.
It's actually not hard. You just gotta like be quick. Like before, I used to do both. Like I was in the press box doing offense and defense. Like you just gotta watch the plays and you gotta listen to the announcer, because like even if you calculated right and they might say something different, but usually I calculated it right and then I get it down and I'll have all them up and I'll post them up for the newspapers to put, or for these recruiters or GoPreps.com. I used to have them all the stats for these players. Now I kind of like it. Kind of took a big monkey off my back, because now they moved me down to chain crew, instead of watching it from the press box, I'm on the sidelines doing it. But I just do defense now. I don't have to do both. We have a guy that does offense. Now when I do defensive stats, all I got to do is just watch who's making the tackles. I just look at the numbers, and I got the roster on this sheet. And if like number 52 makes the tackle, I just put a tally on number 52. If he sacked and then we got a list where it says solo tackles, quarterback sacks, tackles behind the line assists, sack assists. I put that number of that player on there. Or if if they're doing a kickoff return or a punt return, I put who's returning it, and wherever they catch the ball, I just calculate how many yards they've done. And if there's an interception, I just put the quarterback that threw the interception and whoever caught it and how many yards he returned it for. It's really simple. I've never seen what the new offensive stat look like. Pretty sure it looks hard, but I used to do it off an iPad. I had an app where it helped me. It just easily calculate everything for me. But I kind of went back old school, and it's now even 10 times better and easier to show you're a chain crew member to get in the game, because back then I had no proof of showing that I was a statistician unless it was home games. But now that I'm on the chain crew, that I have an ID to show, and now I don't have to pay to get into a game again, especially if we were ever good enough to make it to the Dome for the state championship. I have proof to show that. So, I mean, it's kind of a hobby. I'm huge on sports, but I mainly just do it for football. I've done baseball and softball before, but I don't have to do it anymore. Basketball is probably the hardest because you got to be really – basketball's so fast-paced. It's so hard to do stats. Who had a foul, who had the assist layup. It's just too much. So I said I dropped the whole basketball thing. I just do strictly football and baseball and softball.
Sounds pretty neat. Sounds a lot neater than when I took it in college. That's for sure. I just went to a show in Texas. It's actually Booker T's school, Reality of Wrestling. They had a show last night. It was an all-women show. And there was one friend, we were actually talking about that. She took statistics in college, and I was like, yeah, I did too. And I was like, I don't know how I passed that. I made an A, but by God, I made an A. I don't know how, because like that stuff was like a different language to me. But I ended up passing it.
I thought it was called PWA. I thought that was his wrestling school in Houston.
No, it's ROW. It's Reality of Wrestling.
Oh, okay, so it must be something new.
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been that before.
Well, when he first started, it was TWA.
Okay.
But he actually changed it over to Reality of Wrestling around, I guess, 2011 or 2012.
Yeah, because I went to one of his shows in 2008 when we went to my very first TNA show I ever went to. I went to one of their pay-per-views. I went to Victory Road in 2008, and I stayed the whole weekend out there, and we went to one of his wrestling shows. They had a show in the town I was staying at, and so we went to check it out, and sure enough, he invited some TNA stars as a guest. Like, I got to meet Awesome Kong. She was a guest at the show to promote that Victory Road was going to be in Houston the next day. But this was back when I didn't get my first iPhone until 2011. So I still had the BlackBerry back in 2008. So I had maybe the roughest BlackBerry picture with Booker T that doesn't exist anymore. And we had digital cameras back then too, but I didn't bring my digital camera to TNA. I completely forgot it, and I had to take shitty pictures on a BlackBerry Pearl.
Yeah, I went to, talking about TNA house shows, there was one in Baton Rouge, I want to say in like 2011. I went to that one, and that was kind of the start of me meeting people, because I met Devon and Bubba Ray when they were in TNA. And I remember shaking Devon's hand, and like my hand disappeared in his. Like, his is so big. But that was pretty neat. That was when Mick Foley was in Impact at the time. Well, it was TNA at the time, but back in 2011 when he was there. So that was pretty cool to see him. And I remember clear as day, like it happened yesterday. It was James Storm versus Matt Hardy. And Matt punched James, and James's hair, like a strand of hair, just went flying into the audience and just kind of drifted. I was like, wasn't even paying attention to the match anymore. I was like, look at his hair go.
I've only been to 2 TNA shows. I went to that Victory Road, and then the last one I went to, it was a TNA house show in Lake Charles in 2010. And that's where I met Kurt Angle, and I got a good picture of him when the lights were still on. And at the end of the show, this was when Rob Van Dam was TNA World Champion at the time. For $20, at the end of the show, for $20, you get to get in the ring and take a picture with RVD. But we could not use our cameras. They had a professional photographer that took it, and they give you that little, kind of like at WrestleMania Access when you take a picture at the Undertaker's graveyard or whatever. They give you this little, it's like a little card, and it's got a code. You go on the line and you type that code in, and then you can save the picture in your files or print it out or whatever. That we did that with the RVD picture, and I did it, and then I went to a Walmart and got it printed out. I put it in a frame. I took a picture with Mr. Well, he was Mr. Kennedy in WWE, but in TNA he was Mr. Anderson. I took a picture with him, but the lighting was so bad. It's like half the picture you could see his face good, the other half you couldn't see it, and you couldn't even see my face because of the bright light up in the air. Messed the whole picture up because it was still dark in the arena. And unfortunately, right when we were leaving, my AA batteries went out in the digital camera, and I couldn't take any more pictures. And the door we walked out of to go outside, Jeff Jarrett was standing right there, meet and greeting with people. All I got to do was shake his hand that wasn't in a brace because he had his arm broke or he had shoulder surgery. I got to meet Jeff Jarrett, but didn't get to take a picture of him because the batteries died in the digital camera. But it was cool to meet him too.
The early part of technology there, huh?
Yeah, this was 2010.
Yeah. So, talking about meet and greets, and you said you went to WrestleMania 34, did you meet Stone Cold Steve Austin? Because that's a rarity, like for him to do meet and greets.
Unfortunately, no. Any of the meet and greets that was like VIP style or were completely overpriced, no, I did not do any of those. Because like the day I went the morning of WrestleMania. Like I remember Daniel Bryan had a meet and greet, but it was like VIP only. You had to pay, and it was like an arm and a leg. There were some meet and greets that were free, actually. Like I probably met more wrestlers at that access than I did when I went to WrestleMania 25. When I went to WrestleMania 25, the only one I met was Ric Flair. And that was at a Q&A. Like I was at the barricade, and he just went. I was literally over the barricade, and he went and shook everybody's hand when he was done, and he got to shake mine, but I didn't take a picture with him. I didn't think I had time to do it. When I went to that one, I met Zack Ryder in the Elimination Chamber, but now he's Matt Cardona. I met the Lucha Dragons, Sin Cara and Kalisto. I played WWE 2K with Jason Jordan, but I didn't take no picture with him. I got to maybe the biggest one I met that night. I met Paige. And I got a picture of her. It's actually on my Facebook. I thought I posted it in my Instagram, and I don't think I did. But if I ever do a Throwback Thursday or something again, or Flashback Friday, I'll post it. Or if she has a birthday coming up again or something, or if by some miracle she comes back in the wrestling business like AJ Lee did, I'll post the picture. But maybe the shocking out of nowhere was meeting Drew McIntyre on Bourbon Street for WrestleMania 30.
Yeah, that one's got me a little bit jealous. He's still on my bucket list. Drew's one of my favorites. I gotta meet him at some point.
It was a good picture. I mean, he was so skinny. Like, remember how small he used to be? This was like 3MB Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Like, you look at him now, he's all jacked up, but this was in 2014. It was a good picture, but what was funny was it was kind of like I took it with my iPhone. It was a selfie picture, and he does like a creep look like this, and then me, I'm just looking normal with my big old gash on my chin because I tried to pop a blackhead that wasn't ready, and I made a sore. So I had a big old sore on my chin that just made the picture look like shit. But I enjoyed it. It was a good picture with him.
Yeah, I got to meet Paige too. That was the second time I got to meet her at Access. But there's a big story about that. So I almost missed meeting her because talking about the VIP stuff that she said was too expensive. I had got a Finn VIP to meet him at Access, but it was on a Saturday, and that Saturday it was a shit show because the tickets were scanning as general admission and not VIP. And I had one of those tickets that scanned as general admission. So I could only get in there, and I was so pissed off. And then I was like, well, I'll try to make the most of it. I couldn't meet Finn. So I went in line for Paige, and I almost missed her. I was like right there. So you have like a 2-hour, they do Access for 2 hours, and then they cut it off, and then the next person goes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's always nice enough to the fans that she'll go in line and meet the fans as much as she could till like security kicks her out or whatever. They tell her to go wherever she has to go, later. So I was right there at the line, like I was almost next to meet her. So she came in the line, and it did help. I had a Starbucks card, so if you ever want to bribe Paige to meet her, get a Starbucks card. She loves Starbucks, so I was like, I shouted out, "Hey, Paige, I have a Starbucks card for you!" And she was so hoarse, like she gets hoarse doing like all these the access shows because she has to talk so much. But like in
Oh,
her hoarse voice, she was like, "Hell yeah, I'll take it." And then so like I gave it to her, and I was like, "Can I get a selfie real quick?" So that's how like I met her the second time.
oh,
And then the first time, kind of like you, I had a pimple like on the side of my face. That was the first time I met her, so I was like kind of trying to hide it. You can't really see it, so I was like, you see it more. I met her mom too, so like you see it more like on the side of my face. I was like, man, it always happens. Like when you go to these places, you have like pimples or blackheads or something. It's like it really sucks.
well, good. That's good advice because if I ever have the chance to meet her again, I'm buying her a gift card. I'm gonna say, look, this is for you. If I ever got in your situation where it's almost over and she's got to go, I'm gonna holler. I'm gonna flash a Starbucks gift card to get her attention to come to
There
me.
you go, and tell her Kathy told me to do this. She knows who I am, so be
Kathy,
like, "Yep,
Kathy Knight from Ringside Society. I'm gonna tell her
yep."
that.
Kathy told me to tell you love Starbucks, so like she'll be like, "Yep, I love Starbucks."
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I
Make sure you say it's her adopted sister too, because they
all
adopted her
right.
recently as well.
Awesome. I will do that. Now, I will say the only thing that really did make me mad, like I actually went to my first AEW show 2 months ago. I went to AEW Dynamite in Houston, where that night they did the final Jericho MJF, the final labor of Jericho. If you guys watch Dynamite, uh, the only thing if I'd have known this before, I'd have prepared and bought it. But I was pissed that if you ever get a chance to go to a Dynamite, they're coming to New Orleans in January, and me and my crew are going. The Borderly podcast will be on Dynamite in January, and I'm gonna keep a lookout. And I reminded them, uh, they actually do meet and greets before they even go live on the set. Like especially if you watch Being the Elite on YouTube or Sammy's vlog, I watch them every week. Since it was in Houston, I had a feeling Sammy was going to do a meet and greet, but I didn't know about it. At the last minute, I think it was at 12 o'clock that day, that AEW posted on Twitter, they're doing a meet and greet where you can meet Sammy Guevara, Thunder Rosa, and Evil Uno and Stu Grayson from the Dark Order, $50 a piece. And I was so pissed off because I would have paid that's cheap. I'd have paid 50 for all three if I'd have known ahead of time. But no, I didn't know, and I was so upset because I would have met. I love Sammy Guevara right now. He's my H-Town brother. I would have loved to meet him, and I love the vlog. Of course, who don't want to meet Thunder Rosa? And of course, in Dark Order, I got to pick at Evil Uno because he did a cameo for us for our podcast before. We got on the cameo at, and we paid for Evil Uno to do a cameo for us. We got him to do one. We got John Silver to do one for us, and I went above and beyond. I paid for Darby Allin to do a cameo for us, and that was pretty bad. The only thing bad about Darby Allin was him being a northerner. He said my first name wrong. He said Mark Hay instead of Marcus Hay. And poor Dylan, being from Louisiana, we pronounce it A-Bear. He
Right.
said Herbert. The only one he
Yeah.
got correct was Jordan Johnson. So yeah, we picked Dylan about that. I'm like, God, if we meet Darby Allin, let him know, hey, thank you for messing up my name on the cameo that I paid $75 for.
Yeah, I gave Remy and Rob a little crash course before we had Dylan on the show, because they said, I think Remy said Herbert, and I was like, nope, 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 it's A Bear, like A, the letter A, and bear, like the cute cuddly things that will kill you in the woods. It's like it's A Bear. So
Besides,
they got it right. So like they got a little crash course before the show. So being a
I,
fellow Louisianian had to represent.
besides Paige's mom, has there any other wrestlers? Like, what's some of the biggest names y'all have ever had on y'all show? Whether if they were just jobbers or breakout stars, whether they compete in WWE, ECW, Impact, AEW. Like, what's some of the biggest guys y'all had?
Thunder Rosa's been on.
Yeah. We've had Thunder Rosa. We've had
Wow.
Mustafa Saeed. That was New Jack's tag team partner.
We had
Princess Victoria. We've had
Renegade Twins.
Yeah, Renegade Renegade Twins.
How much did it cost to get Thunder Rosa?
Negra.
Yeah, we had La Rosa Negra.
How much did it cost to get Thunder Rosa to come on a show? That would be if she's easy to contact, I would love to get her on the show.
Talk to her.
Well,
you gotta talk to her.
It was me. She did it for free because
we had her
she
whole
knows
family.
me. Yeah, we've had
wow.
her whole family on.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Thunder Rosa she's the wrestler. Her husband, who I'd actually recommend for you to get on, he's really cool, Brian Cervantes. He is a promoter, and her son, Anakin Rosa, their son Anakin Rosa, is a wrestler. Actually, he just started out. So, I'm thinking, well, hey, I might as well just get the whole family if they're involved. So we've had them. Mustafa Saeed, I was like, okay, well, he was part of the Gangsters. They did something on New Jack. Why not just get Mustafa Saeed?
Awesome.
We've had WWF tag team champion Princess Victoria, AQA, who is now known as Zeta Rainier in NXT, Cameron Burnett, who's now known as Amari Miller. Yeah, we've had Danny Limelight, who's over in MLW.
Yeah,
Red
y'all had quite a bit. Y'all had quite a bit.
Yeah, we caught them before they hit like big time. So we always say like it's always catch them. Even though you think they're a nobody now, they'll be a somebody later.
Well,
so we always try to catch them.
We've had two. We've interviewed a lot of indie guys and girls. There are two that are currently in the big leagues now. We got to them before they signed with the big leagues. One's a male, one's a female. Are you guys familiar with MLW?
A little bit.
To an extent, but call names and it might ring a bell.
We got Alex Kane before he signed with MLW. Got the Suplex Assassin. And somehow we got Maddie Rankowski before she signed with AEW.
Yeah, we've had she's one of them too.
Well, she's on the AEW roster on the website. And I saw that. I'm like, holy shit. I went back on her Twitter, but I didn't see the Maddie Rankowski's All Elite picture yet. Usually that's what they post when they sign, but it shows on the website she's currently signed with the company. And I'm like, is this for real? Like, you go to AEW's website, she's on the active roster. But I went on her Twitter. I did not see her picture where it says so-and-so's All Elite. But now, thank God we got her before she signed, because if you want to get someone in AEW to come on, you have to talk to they each have an agent, or they have like one particular agent. You have to get an approval for them to come on your show, because we've all three tried to get 10 Dark Order's 10 Preston Vance to come on the show, because we've interviewed a guy he went to wrestling school with that we became very good friends with. He's from Georgia, and him and Preston are like this. Like, they are very good friends and they always stay in contact. We tried to get him on, and he finally responded to me in an email, but he said you got to talk to this agent, and he's like completely hard to get a hold of and get an approval. And then I tried it again with Fuego del Sol. I tried to get a surprise, or my boys, and get Fuego on the show, and he messaged me back, but he said the same thing. You got to talk to this agent. And I tried to get a hold of him again, and it just never worked. And I'm like, shit. Because I really would have loved to got Fuego on. I'd have had a better chance of getting Sammy on the show if I got Fuego. And then if that would have worked, then I would have loved to get Marco Stunt and maybe Jungle Boy on the show, because I'd love to talk to Jungle Boy. I love Jungle Boy too.
Yeah, that would be neat. It's harder to get them when they're in major promotions, because like we don't even try to touch WWE or anything like that, because there's probably like a protocol to like AEW. And
I'll talk
it
to
would be harder to catch them.
I'll talk to former talent, like if they wrestled in the 2000s. Like, I remember Dylan mentioned to y'all, like the very first former WWE guy we've ever gotten was James Ellsworth. We got him back in January. We did that one on Zoom. Like, when we started on Skype, and then we found Zoom. I mean, I like Zoom, but this is 10 times better. The only thing is, Zoom makes my voice sound like I'm on the radio again. It sounds so high in quality and no noise in the background. This one, when it wants to, it makes my voice sound like Zoom, but sometimes it might make it sound hectic. When I got, according to Best Buy, I bought the #1 microphone they had for podcasting, and it makes it's worth it on Zoom. StreamYard does too, but it depends. But like, we had James Ellsworth, And then we interviewed Just Incredible from ECW. We did that on StreamYard. That was a good one too. We actually have that one as well as a live feed to watch. We're on the works. We haven't really talked with him lately. We're trying to get Eugene on the show. We've been in contact with Eugene. We want to get him on the show. He's not overpriced. I've been in contact with Rodney Mack. I'm trying to get him on the show. I've been in contact with Victoria. I'm trying to get her on the show. And another thing too, like I would have loved to try and get Kurt Angle. We've actually been in contact with his manager. The only problem is he charges $500 for 30 minutes.
Whoa.
So I was like, no. And wait, I have an even better story, but it was a ripoff for this type of wrestler. I've been in contact with Buff Bagwell to try and get him on the show. Because if you look at his profile, like that's not his real phone number. That's a whole nother number. According to another podcast, well, actually, Dylan got in touch with Buff Bagwell. Not me. Dylan got in touch with him. He gave Dylan his phone number. And Dylan's like freaking out. And he's like, he wanted me to talk to him. So I said, give me the number. I'll call him. Well, I call him. He don't answer. I call him again. He don't answer. So I left a voicemail. I was like, I'm not going to call him 10,000 times. That's creepy. I called him twice. I left a voicemail. He called me the next morning. And I could tell he sounded like he just woke up. And he was a cool dude, but I was like, holy crap, I just talked to Buff Bagwell for like 2 minutes on the phone. The only problem is we're not booking him because he charges $300. I can understand if you were like on Sting's level, but no, I'm not paying that much to talk to him. But at least I could say, hey, Buff Bagwell called my personal cell phone and I talked to him for like 2 minutes.
Yep.
If you
can't take that away from you. There you go.
And I still got his number saved in my phone just in case I hit the lotto and I'm like, fuck it, I'll pay $300 to get Buff Bagwell on.
If you're looking for a good guy to talk to, I would recommend AJ Styles' former tag team partner, Air Paris. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. I think he's on Twitter. He's on Twitter as well too. Very cool guy. I've always wanted to talk to him because I figured I always felt unfortunate tag teams, there's always one that goes on to success and the other one just kind of like stays at a certain level.
Yeah.
And I always thought that he should have been on the same level as AJ Styles because they complemented each other. And we were actually able to get him on our show and just talk about his career and whatnot. Really nice guy, really cool guy. I'd recommend him to everybody.
Yeah, if James Ellsworth and Just Incredible, that's two I would recommend y'all. They were very good. I forgot how much Just Incredible charges. I know it's not a lot, but James Ellsworth was only $50, and I enjoyed talking to him, and he was very cool to talk to, even though he was a crazy type of gimmick when he was in his short time in WWE in 2016 and 17. But I enjoyed talking to him. And, of course, Just Incredible was great, too. He was very loyal. He was honest when we asked him all the questions about ECW bankrupting and all that. And he was very professional about it, too. And it was great talking to him. So I recommend those two especially. If we ever get Eugene and it works out, I'll let you guys know. And then y'all could get him, too, because he sounds like he'd be great to talk to as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that.
If you also want a piece of the ones I'd recommend for you are Princess Victoria. If you want to get a piece of, she's cool. Like, she's on Facebook. If you want to message one of us on Facebook, we can refer you to her. She's very cool. I think she should definitely get more credit than people give her because she's a piece of not just women's wrestling history, but WWF history. Another one I would recommend, Heidi Lee Morgan.
Yeah,
she's from WWE. We got the opportunity to talk to her. Really nice lady. Mustafa Said, cool as hell. Rob asked him if he was smoking. Rob, I'm gonna let Rob tell that story. But really cool guy in the gangsters. Definitely cool to talk to.
Okay.
And I can't think of anybody else really like old school wise.
New school, we've had Roxy. She's the current ROH Women's Champion. We've had her on the show last year. We've had Rachel Rose. Um, Mysterious Q. He's a wrestler from Texas. We've had a lot of Texas ones because I go to Texas to all their shows.
Yeah.
We've had Jasmine Allure. There's just a bunch. Like we've been around for almost 3 years now, so there's like a lot of interviews there, a lot of talent.
We also had Serena Knight too.
We will make a year November the 11th. We'll make 1 year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we did our 100th episode last month. Sometime around September, we did it last month. And we're not like, we're like your unfiltered podcast. Like we'll randomly talk about anything. Our main thing we've been getting recognized for is top 10 episodes. Like we always do a lot of top 10s, like favorite this, worst this, greatest this, anything like that. Like we've done greatest tag teams, we've done greatest champ, like world heavyweight champions, intercontinental champions, US champions. We've done top 10 King of the Ring. We've done one of the interesting ones. We've done top 5 superstars who could dethrone Roman Reigns as Universal Champion. We actually got one coming up for Big E this week. We're going to do top 5 superstars who can take the title from Big E. We do prediction shows. We do fallouts. We like to bring guests on for prediction shows, but we didn't do one for Crown Jewel because we're not fans of WWE going to Saudi Arabia, so we did our own little thoughts of WWE Saudi Arabia nonsense. But we did the Crown Jewel prediction show with it at the end. When I get off of this, we're doing our Halloween special, and that's gonna be a fun one to watch. So be sure to check that out on StreamYard, and we're gonna close that out predicting Halloween Havoc for NXT. And we got a whole bunch of different stuff going on. When it's Elimination Chamber season, we did it this year. I don't know if you guys can do it. Like, I know you don't see it here. Y'all do have a background. I just don't see it because there's like 4 screens right here. On special occasions, we'll have backgrounds, but we have our own personal World Elite podcast background. But when it was Elimination Chamber, I found a badass background of what's like inside the chamber. So we put it on there and we called it the Podcast Chamber episode, where we put 6 people in it. It was me, Dylan, and Jordan. We invited 3 other guests, and we're like, welcome to the Podcast Chamber. We always come up with something with Nito and stuff. I mainly come up with the episode ideas. Dylan has an idea, he'll throw it in, and we automatically do it. Dylan's more the tech guy. He's the one that edits the show and distributes it. He does all the hard work, and you got to give the credit to all of him. Jordan and I, we just do the entertaining as well. Dylan's more the professional host level, where it's like if we were an announced team. If we were the announced team, Dylan would be Michael Cole, I would be Pat McAfee. Or Dylan would be Jim Ross, I would be Jerry the King Lawler. That type of or if you're talking about a 3-man team, Dylan would be JR, Jordan would be Tony Schiavone, I would be Excalibur. Because nice. I don't shut up.
Yeah, we don't really do edits. We just go live. So like if every disaster, you see everything. Like we're really raw. We don't edit. We don't have time for that really. But so like if it's live, I mean, we went 3 hours and 30 minutes with Saraya Knight. We went 4 hours with Nigel Rabbit. So like we just keep it going. Like if they want to talk, we let them talk. And we each take a turn, like the 3 of us, so that's why it goes a little bit longer. But yeah, like all of our stuff's raw and like unedited. So every blooper, everything you see, it's there. It's there for everybody to see and everybody to hear.
Oh, same here. We'll leave all the bloopers and stuff for the StreamYard, but when we want to put it on Apple Pod and Spotify and all that, Dylan edits all that to make us better. To make it look better, but like you could see the fun side too live. Like, but we don't virtually record live everyone. Like, so there'll be times we'll just do audio only. It depends, but 9 times out of 10 we'll StreamYard it, where you can watch it on mainly just Facebook and Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. It's just too much to kind of put it all at once. We used to have a Twitch, but we canceled it ever since Impact dropped its deal with Twitch, because before I got DirecTV again, that's how I was watching Impact was on Twitch, and when they ended their little partnership, that's the only time I was using Twitch. I don't use it, and I'm a video gamer, but I just don't. I can't do it all at once. I can't stream myself playing video games, and I'm pretty sure nobody wants to see me play video games. See my reactions and shit.
Yeah, I joined Twitch because of Paige. Paige is on there, and that's what started me on Twitch. And then made some friends through there, and I started watching their streams. And there's a couple of people like Matt Hardy, some people from the Dark Order, I think, are on Twitch.
Evil Uno's on it. I think Adam Cole has it too.
Yeah, and there's somebody else. Oh, Kip Sabian, he's on there too. So there's a lot of people.
Super bad. Yeah.
So I know Rob's chomping at the bit, but I got one more question. Since I was going to let you plug your show, but you did that already. So my last question before I turn over to Rob is, see, you have an Astros shirt and you're a big Astros fan. So what do you think about them going into the World Series again?
Oh, it's great. I'm actually more happy we're playing the Braves instead of the Dodgers because of that whole cheating controversial scandal they throw at us. I felt like if we'd have played the Dodgers again, they'd have rigged it and screwed us to get payback. But the Braves, I mean, I'm not a big Braves fan, but I respect them because they got a lot of people in the South. Astros and the Braves are the two popular teams in the South when it comes to Major League Baseball. So this is like a dream match for us. I'm excited, but I'm going to be honest, if the Braves win it, I'm going to be happy for them. I won't be pissed off like I was 2 years ago when the Nationals beat us in Game 7. But I'm excited. I'm just glad the Dodgers are not in it. I can't stand them. I hate them just as much as I hate the Yankees and the Red Sox and any other team, or like the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm not a big fan of them either. I'm not a fan of the White Sox because they swept us in the 2005 World Series. I'll take the Cubs before the White Sox. But yeah, like every like I have at least a top 3 or top 5 in every league I hate with a passion. Like NFL, can't stand the Dallas Cowboys. I can't stand the Atlanta Falcons being a Saints fan. I like Green Bay. I can't stand the Chicago Bears because that's their biggest rival. And wherever Tom Brady is, I hate them. So I'm not a big fan on Tampa Bay. And another team I've been hating a lot is the LA Rams ever since that no-call controversy in the NFC Championship game a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's like a Southern World Series going on, so that's pretty neat for all of us Southerners here. So it's pretty awesome.
Basketball, I mean, Pelicans are just the Pelicans. They're like the Cleveland Browns. Well, Cleveland ain't the worst team in the NFL anymore. I guess you could say they're the Jacksonville Jaguars of the NBA. Like if they lose, I'm like, well, that's nothing new. Like I'm slowly turning into what NBA fans are now. They don't follow teams unless you're from a city that like Boston or or LA. Like that's your only real fan bases of teams. A lot of people today in the NBA, they only follow players. Like I'm a big Kevin Durant fan, so I follow Brooklyn. I like the Brooklyn Nets. I got a love-hate relationship with the Houston Rockets, but I mean, I occasionally root for them. But right now, if it's not the Pelicans, it's Kevin Durant. I mean, I like KD. I'm not a LeBron James fan. I hate him with a passion. But I'm an 80s baby, so I'm a Michael Jordan guy. Michael Jordan was the one that inspired me to watch the NBA. And even though I wasn't a big fan of the Lakers, I got a lot of respect for Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, but I was more of a Shaq guy because he went to LSU. So.
Yeah, that's true. So,
I just can't.
Go ahead.
No, I can't stand the Lakers anymore because of LeBron. But when LeBron wasn't there, they were all right. Like, I didn't root for them a lot, but like if they were playing the Celtics in the NBA Finals, I was picking Boston. But if they were playing somebody else, I'd root for him because of Shaq. But I liked Kobe too. Kobe was good. He was great. I ain't gonna say good. He was great. But I was an MJ guy. He was the first basketball player I saw on my television because the Bulls dominated the 90s. That's all they had on TV was the Bulls. And I got hooked up. Got that 23 black pinstripe jersey I still have to this day, and Space Jam. That made me love Michael Jordan.
Awesome. Well, before I turn it over to Rob, just want to say thank you for coming on the show. And I wish nothing but the best for you and World Elite Podcast, and hope it continues to flourish, and wish nothing but good things for you. So turn it over to Rob.
Thank you.
All right, sweet. Thanks, Kathy. So what's going on, man? How's your day been today, man? Do anything exciting?
Oh, not really.
Any of that foosball?
Yeah, I watched some NFL games. I watched the Bengals take down the Baltimore Ravens. Big on Joe Burrow. So happy for him. Saints play tomorrow night against the Seahawks, and I feel like it's been forever since we watched the Saints game because last week was the bye, and it feels like a bye week again because they're not playing today. It's back-to-back Sundays, but they play tomorrow night against the Seahawks. I think I love their chances because Russell Wilson's still out with an injury. We got a few players returning. If you listen to Dylan's podcast on Dome Field Advantage, and we're finally getting our kicker back because that kicker we've had that was replacing Will Lutz, he can't kick worth a shit.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I didn't catch any football or nothing today, man. I've been, taking the dogs out to the park, just hanging out, doing laundry, cleaning the house, and then free time playing some Avengers on Xbox, man. So, because it's free on the Game Pass, so I was like, let me play this. So, man, you were saying earlier, man, your mom, she loves The Rock, what I mean? Got, kind of, that's how she got into wrestling. And you said that, I just started laughing because to this day, if The Rock commercial comes on with The Rock and I'm around my mom and she sees it, she goes, ooh, The Rock. You know what I mean? Whatever movie it is, no matter what he's doing, he could be, just sitting there in the trash can for 2 hours. My mom's going to go watch it. She don't care. She's like, yeah, The Rock. I'm like, oh, my Lord, Mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, and then see, doing this podcast, what I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and they're like, yeah, my parents, they're kind of strict. Didn't let me watch this, that, and other. I'm like, man, my mom and dad were cool, I guess. And they did not care. They were just like, yeah, you go watch whatever. You stay late as you want to do this, that. I'm like, all right. But there are always rules, you know what I mean? Like, I can stay up as late as I want, but if you start sleeping in class or you can't get up in the morning, you're going to have a bedtime. You can say some cuss words if you want and all, but you better not cuss out no teacher and adult. If you do, yeah, you can't say what you want at all. I'm like, all right, okay. So, So I do gotta ask, man, watch ECW, sir. Did you ever watch ECW? Were a fan of that back in the day?
I tried to get into it when I first heard of it, but I don't know. It just didn't really grow into me. And I like hardcore wrestling too. Like, I tried to get into it, but there was no way I can try and watch this in WWE at the same time. Because, probably when WCW started going down, after 99 or 2000, I was barely watching WCW anymore. I was strictly watching WWF till I found TNA. But no, I probably watched maybe 2 or 3. I think ECW aired on Friday nights or Saturday nights or something on TNN in 99 at the time. When I played the video game, I was like, okay, ECW sucks. When I played that ECW hardcore television game on the PlayStation, it was just like WWF Attitude. I said, bro, this game sucks. Like, ECW must suck. And it wasn't your great cup of tea. Like, it started as a territorial event, and it just became a global thing. But I will say, when we just did an ECW episode recently. We did a nostalgia. I come up with cool shit. Like, I came up with a series called One Hit Wonders where we're going back and doing nostalgia on pay-per-views that only happened once and never happened again. And we did One Night Stand 05 and 06. And I said the reason I wanted to watch this event because when The Rise and Fall of ECW came out on DVD, I bought it and I watched it. Then I really saw what ECW was. I'm like, man, why the hell didn't I watch this? Like, I would have enjoyed this if I'd have stayed watching it, but I don't know. I was 10 years old when I found ECW, and I just wasn't a fan of it. But 5 years later, I was 15 years old. I bought the DVD, and I watched it. I'm like, I should have watched this shit 5 years ago. And when I watched One Night Stand, then I was like, that was a big hole in my chest. I'm like, man, of how good this show was. If they did this 5 years ago, yes, I should have watched it, but I came on the bad side and I watched the crappy version of ECW from start to finish. So yeah, that's my ECW story there. Like, I tried it. I didn't grow into it, but when the DVD came out, I wish I'd have grew into it. And then I got into the Rebirth, and it just, like The Price is Right, when you go up and it goes.
That's right. Yeah, man. Yeah, I used to love ECW, man. They used to come around here because I'm in Delaware, and we're like, Philly's like an hour away. So they come around colleges here all the time. I used to watch them a lot. And we actually, Remy got Mustafa Sayed on here. And I remember watching him fight New Jack. And I remember New Jack took some duct tape, duct taped him to a table, climbed up to the rafters in the gymnasium of Del State, jumped off and crashed through them and stuff. And we got an interview and stuff, and I was telling him about that, like, oh, I can't believe it. So when we had him on, it was right after the New Jack Dark Side of the Ring episode. And for some reason, they did not interview, Mustafa on that show, that's a tag partner and whatever. So I was like, all right. So Remy was like, all right, well, let's get Mustafa on here. Let's get his side of the story, and, hear his story. So we're talking with him on there. And I remember on there, they were talking about him smoking pencil shavings and getting crazy and da-da-da-da. We start talking about that. He goes, no, man, I wasn't smoking pencil shavings. I was smoking Sherm stick. Yeah, Sherm stick. I'm like, oh, all right, man. Yeah, I guess that would set you off and make you fight a bunch of police, man. So
yeah.
so he had to clear that up, man. It wasn't pencil shavings, man. If you ever watch it, it wasn't pencil shavings. He was smoking Sherm sticks. So I was like, all right, man.
Nice.
Yeah. So you're talking about like AEW and stuff, man. You're more into that and all. And, that's awesome, man. I love, watching AEW, WWE. I was actually over at a buddy's house like a couple weeks ago, and one of his friends, I guess he's like a diehard WWE person or something or whatever. I'm like G Wiz Rob. I like all wrestling. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Da, 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 da. Fine, good with everything, some bad, everything. This guy was telling me, with of course he had like a 40 in his hand. He's like, AEW has no storylines whatsoever. They have like one or two, and that is it. They are garbage, and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, yeah, I don't know how people think that, but I'm like, all right, whatever, and it's like, I know Thunder Rosa and stuff, right? Yeah, you wouldn't be saying that he's the type, like, if she was there, he'd be like, oh, I love AEW. I watch y'all all the time. Y'all are the best, you know what I mean? You had the best storylines, and I'm showing everything. It's like, all right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, AEW, man, do you think you're talking about like Hangman Page? Do you think he's going to be the man to end Omega's run? Is he going to have like a nice little run?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, I got confused at one point. They're having that tournament, but what I didn't realize was, no, the finals are going to happen at the pay-per-view. I thought the winner of that tournament was fighting Kenny at Full Gear, when I was like, well, wait, Hangman just won that casino ladder match. I was like, what was the point of having that match? But then I misread. I was like, oh, no, they're doing what they did a year ago. No, they're having that tournament, but the finals are going to be at Full Gear. So we are getting Kenny versus Hangman at Full Gear for the title. Kenny's been champion for a while. He is the longest reigning AEW champion currently. He's held it for over 300 plus days. He will make 1 year December the 2nd or December the 3rd. And I've watched. I did not miss any episode of Dynamite and Rampage. I watched every episode of Dynamite since 2019. I watched every episode of Rampage when it aired back in August. And it's obvious he's going to win the title because the Dynamite after Full Gear is going to be in Norfolk, Virginia, just outside of where he grew up. So it's going to be more like a homecoming for him. They're going to be at ODU, Old Dominion at Norfolk. He's obviously going to have a big homecoming with the title. But yes, he will be the one to beat Kenny Omega and take the title from the GOAT. Unfortunately, now they want to go back to Saturday pay-per-views, and I will not be able to watch it live unless LSU has another 11 a.m. kickoff, because I'm a season ticket holder for the LSU Tiger football team, and they play Arkansas at home that same day, and lately their games have been in the daytime. If it's a day game, then I'll get to watch it. If it's a 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock kickoff, I'm going to have to wait till I get home after the game and watch the replay on demand on Fight TV.
Yeah, that's cool. So I got to ask you, man, when's MJF's time coming? If do you think
coming.
MJF's going to get the belt next year? Do you think it's next year? Do you think he would be he's next in line after maybe be the man to take it from Page or whatever?
He will be. I think he will be the one, because one of our recent episodes, I asked the question. I did this with all the titles in AEW. I said, who are going to be the next 3 champions? And when we got to the AEW side, I said Hangman was going to be the one to take it off of Kenny. I said this back in September. I said Hangman's going to take it from Kenny, MJF's going to take it from Hangman, and Jungle Boy's going to take it from MJF. That's my next 3 AEW World Champions. Hangman, MJF, and Jungle Boy. I fucking love MJF. He is the greatest heel I've ever seen. He's better than Triple H Evolution. He's better than Hollywood Hogan NWO. And he cannot break character. That's what makes him such a great heel. Even not break character, if you meet him in person, he will be a dickhead in person because that's what he's supposed to be, a heel. And that's what I love so much about him. And the fact that he's so young, I think he's 24 years old, he is going to be a fucking star. In 25 years, him, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and there was a fourth guy, I can't remember. They said that's going to be the next, Sammy Guevara. That's going to be the next Stone Cold, Rock, John Cena, Roman Reigns type level, Triple H type level, Undertaker type level. MJF got a bright ass future, and I see him being world champion next year, sometime in 2022, and he'll probably be the youngest AEW champion because he's only 24 years old right now. But they always do that. They always have that 24, 25 year range. Like everybody becomes the youngest champion between those two ages. You look at WWE right now, like Brock Lesnar's the youngest WWE champion. He won it at 25 years old against The Rock, almost 20 years ago. Randy Orton's the youngest man to win the big gold belt. He won it at 24. So MJF's like, they're kind of trailing that. I wish he'd have, when he fought John Moxley at All Out last year, I wouldn't have minded him taking it from Moxley because he was only 23 years old at the time. But he will be the youngest AEW World Champion. Now, Jungle Boy, I don't know if he's younger than MJF. I think he might be a couple years older, but he could be the youngest. But yeah, MJF he's going to be champion soon, I guarantee you.
That's right. Yeah, I like him. He's pretty good too. Now, I don't want to, keep you too long, man. You know what I mean, and all that. Keep you away from the football games for too long from your podcast, man. So I just want to say ask one more thing, man. Like, do your friends, from doing this podcast, do they ask, man, do you have, because you say you have Buff Bagwell's number. Are they like, man, do you have this person's number? Are you friends, da, 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 da? Because I do refereeing stuff for 1CW. And I have friends, they're always asking me, what's this person like backstage? Oh, man, do you have their number? Oh, man, this person. I'm like, oh, my gosh. No, it ain't like that. You're just cool, man,
Oh, no, I've never had that problem before. I ain't going to lie. Like, when some people, I'm going to say the new millennials, like, you look at them now, you say John Cena, like, they freak out. But you tell a new millennial, like I had one be like, how's the podcast thing going? I'm like, you talked to anybody lately? I'm like, actually, yeah, I talked on the phone with Buff Bagwell. Their response was, who's Buff Bagwell? That's the only response I've ever gotten. No, if I ever said, I just got off the phone with John Cena, they'd have took my phone out of my hand and called him ASAP.
Oh, man, yeah, that's great. Man. But, I do want to say, before passing on back to Remy, I want to say, thank you for, taking time out of your day, coming on, chatting with us, man.
Thank y'all. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you nothing but the best, man, for everything you do in the podcast and stuff, man, doing your statistics thing, you know what I mean? Because I am not good with numbers. I can count money, and that is it.
I'm not good with numbers either. It's I'm just fast with looking at what's going on. I'm not a mathematician either. I don't even want to be one.
That's right, man. The teachers used to make fun of me in school because I would sit there have to use my fingers, scrap paper, and all. And they would be like, "Oh, you can't carry scrap paper or calculators when you're older, so you're gonna need to learn this when you're writing down." I was like, "All right, all right, now look." But anyway, I do want to say, just thank you for coming on, man. I had a blast chatting with you, and I hope all the positive things happen to you, the podcast, all that, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and y'all got one more left on our group. I got Jordan next to interview.
He's next. Jordan, if you're watching, we coming for you too, homie. Don't go too far. But I gotta say, Marquise, really and truly, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We know you got a podcast, in a couple of minutes. We really and truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on our show and just shoot the breeze about wrestling and so on. Before we shut down the show, where can fans find you on social media if they want to talk wrestling or if they want to listen to World Elite Podcast?
Okay, yeah. Twitter, you can find me at Marcus Hay right here on the screen. The podcast is also on Twitter at World Elite Pod. We have Facebook. Our podcast has a Facebook page. We also have an Instagram as well. Both podcasts, myself, even my other two co-hosts, we're basically everywhere except TikTok. I don't do TikTok. and I don't have a Twitch anymore. Mainly just Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Podcasts don't have Snapchat though, but the podcast, if you follow us on Facebook, you can watch our live stream episodes like we're doing currently, and our upcoming one I'm going to be doing in an hour and 2 hours or so. We're also, you can subscribe to the podcast on all platforms, including Apple Pod, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spreaker. Our podcast is sponsored by Rogue Energy. So if you ever need a gaming drink, if you're video gamers, go to rogueenergy.com. They got 13 or 14 great flavors, and they just came out with 2 new ones. We have a promo code. It's called World Elite. You can use that at checkout to get 10% off of your order. That's all I got right there.
Awesome. All right. So with that being said, it's about time for us to shut down the show. My stomach is getting rumbly, so I mean it's time for dinner and maybe a nap. But before I go ahead and do that, Kathy Knight, where can fans find you on social media if they want to talk wrestling and all that good stuff?
So I am on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, and Twitch, all at BLUE70517.
Cool. Rob Bass, where can fans find you on social media if they want to talk wrestling, and where can bookers and promoters find you when they want to hire you for your refereeing services for their shows?
All right, you can find me at Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, Rob_Bass82, and then Facebook, YouTube, Rob Bass.
Cool. And if you want to find me on social media, not that I have anything cool to say, but who knows, maybe you'll get lucky. You can find me on Twitter under @TheRemyBlue. And you can also find me on Facebook under the alias Remy Blue. It's a picture of me at WrestleMania 28. Our podcast, however, is also on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram under @Ringside Society. We also have a Facebook group. Just type in Ringside Society and you'll find us there. That's where we also stream, one of our platforms where we actually stream our episodes. We're also on Twitch under @Ringside Society 2019. You can find us on there. That's where we also stream as well. And we're also on YouTube. Yes, we have a YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe to it. Just type in Ringside Society. And once you see that sweet blue, light blue and dark blue yin and yang sign with the blue flames around it, that's us. So go ahead and subscribe. Don't personalize it. Subscribe to all our videos because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We got cool videos from the past with Maddie Rankowski, Jasmine Allure, Antonio San Francisco. We just had Cameron. What was his last name? Rock, help me out here, man. Cameron Stewart.
Cameron Stewart.
Yeah, we had Cameron Stewart on our show and many other great guests. So definitely check us out. You will not be disappointed. And we also have a lot of great 15 minutes of fandom guests as well, like Marquise Bebe here, and Dylan Abear. And pretty soon, Jordan's going to be on here. So definitely subscribe to us. And we also have a Teespring store. Yes, we have merchandise that we sell. Go ahead and check out our Teespring store. Cool.
We're at ProWrestlingTees.com.
Awesome. So definitely check them out. But check us out as well too. We're on Teespring. That's where we sell our Ringside Society merchandise. We have shirts. We have tank tops for the hot weather. It's hoodie season now. Guess who has the hoodies? We do. And we have all colors. We have pink, purple, blue, whatever color you like. It's there. Knock yourself out. And we also have coffee mugs as well, in case you want to sip a nice little, warm beverage. What cooler way to do it than with a Ringside Society coffee mug? And all proceeds from those sales go back into keeping this show afloat. It does not go back into our pockets. Trust me. I'm still eating hamburger helper, and Rob is still eating Kool-Aid sandwiches, and Kathy is still sipping on ramen noodles. So trust me, the struggle is real. But with that being said, we just want to thank everybody tuning in tonight live. We really and truly appreciate it. To those of y'all that are going to listen to us later on, thank you very much in advance. And to those of y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we would just stop what we're doing and go away. Well, like myself at the Golden Corral, Rob Bass at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania, and Kathy Knight at a Vignette store or Cafe Du Monde, we ain't going anywhere for a while.
They hate us because they ain't us.
We ain't stopping. So with that being said, we just want to thank everybody. We just want to let everybody know that we here at Ringside Society are very well aware that everybody and their grandparents and their parents have a podcast. But we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. Hey, yo, Rob Bass, Kathy Knight, the Wyclef Jean and the Lauren Hill to my Praz Michelle, the Matt Hardy and Lita to my Jeff Hardy. One time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, one time for Marquise Bay and the World Elite Podcast crew.
Woo!
What type of podcast are we?
All right. 3, 2, 1.
We're the
We're
Wrestling
Wrestling
Fans
Fans Podcast.
That's right. With the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Setting. We'll be back tomorrow with another exciting, impressive, phenomenal, whatever adjective you want to use, insert here, guest. But until then, we're still going through a pandemic. So until it's completely over, stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.
See y'all.
Thank
Good night.
y'all. Thank y'all.
Classy, Delaware.